return to First Division action today. Peter Beardsley took just 3 minutes to open the afternoon scoring. A predictable start and a predictable result. They're back and still on top. But Arsenal are determined to have a big say, if not the final say again. Perry Groves, as the champions' impressive run continues. Here's a fullback who can't stop scoring. 3 in 3 successive league games for Norwich's Mark Bowen, +1 for Wales. Norwich win at home for the first time. Norman Whiteside capped a magnificent fight back by Everton against Millwall. The winner from Norman, 87 minutes. And it's now 5 in 4 for Tottenham's Gary Lineker. A very late advantage for Spurs at Charlton. The touch and timing from Gary, as good as ever. Well, good afternoon. Let's take an immediate check on the scores and scorers in the First Division today. First one up is the one at Plough Lane. Wimbledon 1, Liverpool 2. That's just the bare details, putting flesh on the bones. Martin Tyler.
Yes, Elton. Liverpool 3 weeks without a league game, but no signs of rustiness. It took Peter Beardsley just 3 minutes to score, put through by John Barnes, who played through the centre today with Ian Rush injured. Barnes also hit the bar from 20 yards in the first half. But 4 minutes into the second half, Bruce Grobbelaar presented Wimbledon with an equaliser, patting in down a swirling Terry Gibson cross straight to Dennis Wise. But Ronnie Whelan completed a fine week for himself personally with the winner after Hans Sagard had only pushed out a shot from Steve Staunton. Liverpool imposed their class for long periods. Wimbledon never quite the aggressive outfit we've come to expect, although Glenn Hussein's goal line clearance from Carlton Fairweather stopped a second equaliser that would have been totally undeserved.
Thanks very much, Martin. Well, there we go. Norwich 2, Chelsea 0. It's still not confirmed. Mark Bowen, the fullback with the first. Robert Fleck, a penalty. That was after 50 minutes. Norwich still unbeaten, but their first home win. Chelsea were second this morning. No goals at Old Trafford. Traumatic week at Old Trafford, of course, with that takeover bid finally being killed off. But Alex Ferguson was committed today to putting a smile back on the face of the club. A goalless draw doesn't sound as if he managed it. Brian Moore.
Well, Big Ron Atkinson returned to Old Trafford, and his Sheffield Wednesday team at the bottom of Division 1 were well worth their draw in a disappointing game. United still below par. Many of the 41,000 crowd had left before the end. Some that remained chanted that it was a load of rubbish. A barren first half had been lit up by a great goal chance for Wednesday when Daly and Atkinson wrong-footed Bruce, rounded Leighton, and was preparing his celebrations when Brian Robson arrived to make a wonderful defensive tackle. The same Robson who a minute later volleyed superbly for Pressman to save, United's best moment of the half. Worthington made a great 50-yard dash for Wednesday in the second half, a shot saved by Leighton. Hughes was booked for elbowing Madden. It all ended without a goal. The smoke may have cleared from United's boardroom, but it's still hard to see exactly what they're doing on the pitch. 0-0.
Well, a disappointing afternoon then at Old Trafford, but not at Goodison Park. Everton had lost their previous 2. It looked like they might make it 3 this afternoon when Teddy Sheringham put Millwall in front, but then a Kevin Sheedy penalty 51 minutes and a Norman Whiteside winner after 87 gave Everton their first victory since that humiliating defeat by Liverpool at Goodison 3 weeks ago. Arsenal 4, Manchester City 0. Tremendous result for Arsenal, 2 for Perry Groves. Michael Thomas, he chipped in with a goal as well, and Paul Merson scored 3 minutes after coming on as substitute. Manchester City had won their previous 3, scoring 12, but all at home. They're a different proposition away, and Arsenal exposed that. Charlton 1, Tottenham 3. Paul Williams put Charlton in front after 50 minutes, and Spurs looked like they might be going down again, but Mitchell Thomas after 74 equalised. Then Gary Lineker gave them the advantage, and Paul Gascoigne capped it after 87 minutes. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Southampton 4, 2 for Rod Wallace, as Southampton chalked up their 3rd away win. That's 8 League and Cup games unbeaten now. Matthew Letitia got a penalty. Duncan Shearer also scored for them. And Trevor Francis was the Queen's Park Rangers goal scorer. 5 in 4 games for him, but slim consolation, I would have thought, for the QPR player manager this afternoon. Coventry 0, Nottingham Forest 2. Forest first away win. Gary Crosby after 36. And Brian Rice made it after 51. Derby 3, Crystal Palace 1, 2 for Paul Goddard and 1 for Dean Saunders from the penalty spot after Alan Pardew had put Crystal Palace in front. And finally, just 1 goal at Luton. Luton 0, Aston Villa 1. Derek Mountfield again. Derek Mountfield, who scored their last goal as well. That was against Wolves in the Littlewoods Cup the week before last. We've got some other headlines for you now. Nick Faldo is through to tomorrow's final of the Suntory World Match Play Golf Championship after a crushing 6-5 victory at Wentworth over the favourite Severiano Ballesteros. Faldo has never won the tournament, meets his Ryder Cup partner Ian Woosnam, the 1987 champion who beat Ronan Rafferty of Northern Ireland 2-1. Rugby Union's world champions, New Zealand, survived a first-half scare to beat Cardiff by 25 points to 15 in the opening match of their tour at the National Stadium. The Welshmen had led 9-3 at the interval. And in Rugby League's Lancashire Cup final at St Helens, Warrington beat Oldham by 24 points to 16 to win the first major Rugby League trophy of the season so far. We'll have more results, scorers, reports for you a little later on, but now it's a full classified check with Bob Colston.
Right, Elton, and we begin with Barclays League Division 1. Arsenal 4, Manchester City 0. Charlton 1, Tottenham 3. Coventry 0, Nottingham Forest 2. Derby County 3, Crystal Palace 1. Everton 2, Millwall 1. Luton 0, Aston Villa 1. Manchester United 0, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Norwich 2, Chelsea 0. Queen's Park Rangers 1, Southampton 4. And Wimbledon 1, Liverpool 2. Division 2, Barnsley 0, Port Vale 3. Bournemouth 2, Oldham 0. Brighton 1, Watford 0. Leeds 2, Sunderland 0. Leicester 0, Oxford United 0. Middlesbrough 0, Plymouth 2. Newcastle 1, Bradford City 0. Portsmouth 1, Blackburn 1. Sheffield United 0, West Ham 2. Stoke 1, Hull 1. Swindon 3, Ipswich 0. And the game between West Bromwich Albion and Wolves, match void. Division 3, Birmingham 4, Northampton 0. Bristol City 1, Swansea 3. Bury 0, Bristol Rovers 0. Cardiff against Chester, match void. Crewe 2, Bolton 2. Fulham 1, Rotherham 1. Leyton Orient 2, Blackpool 0. Mansfield 0, Walsall 2. Notts County 1, Tranmere 0. Preston 4, Brentford 2. Reading 0, Huddersfield 0. And Wigan 0, Shrewsbury 0. Division 4, Burnley 0, Hartlepool 0. Doncaster 1, Carlisle 1. Exeter 2, Chesterfield 1. Gillingham 0, Stockport 3. Hereford 0, Southend 3. Lincoln against Halifax is a late result. Rochdale 1, Peterborough 2. Scarborough 3, Grimsby 1. Scunthorpe 1, Maidstone 0. And Wrexham 2, Aldershot 2. GM Vauxhall Conference, not on the pools, Chorley 2, Enfield 2. Merthyr Tydfil 1, Darlington 1. Runcorn 2, Kidderminster 1. Not on the pools, Sutton United 2, Fisher Athletic 1. Telford 1, Altrincham 3. And Welling 2, Northwich 0. B&Q Scottish League Premier Division. Aberdeen 1, Hearts 3. Dundee 1, Celtic 3. Dunfermline 5, St Mirren 1. Hibernian 3, Motherwell 2. And Rangers 2, Dundee United 1. Scottish Division 1, Airdrie 3, Meadowbank 1. Clyde 0, St Johnstone 2. Falkirk 2, Clydebank 1. Forfar 3, Alloa 3. Hamilton 0, Albion Rovers 0. And 2 games not on the pools, Morton 2, Partick Thistle 2, and Wraith 2, Ayr 0. Scottish Division 2, these matches are not on the pools. Berwick 0, Stenhousemuir 2. Brechin 2, East Stirlingshire 1. Dumbarton 2, Queen's Park 1. Kilmarnock 1, East Fife 0. Queen of the South 2, Cowdenbeath 4. Stirling 2, Montrose 0. And finally Stranraer 2, Arbroath 1.
Thanks, Bob. Here are the score draws. 18, 20, 27, 28, 36, 44, 45 and 57. And the no-score draws 7, 15, 25, 33, 34, 35 and 58. Let's have a look at the top and bottom of the first division. Chelsea, who lost today, was second this morning. They're down to fifth, so moving up. Southampton, Everton, Norwich and Arsenal. They're still chasing Liverpool, though. And at the bottom of the first division now, Sheffield Wednesday still there, despite a point at Old Trafford today. Charlton still next to bottom. Wimbledon, of course, dropped down just below Manchester United. And a good-looking bottom of the Division 1 caption there for Terry Venables' Spurs out of that bottom six. Right, what about the top of Division 2? Now, Sheffield United had an unbeaten record before today. They were playing West Ham in probably the day's top game in Division 2. Here's John Helm.
Sheffield United's unbeaten record has gone. 2 goals by Mark Ward won the points for the Hammers, but for 80% of the match they had their backs to the wall and must have conceded a near record number of corners. Dean hit the bar. Phil Parkes made 2 great saves from Rostron and Dean before the game turned in the 10 minutes before the break. Tracy pulled down Slater, but Dix nearly splintered the crossbar with a penalty. Then Keane weaved the opening for Ward's first goal, a crisp left footer. In the second half, Tracy again hauled down Dolan. This time Ward took the penalty and scored. It ended Sheffield United 0, West Ham 2.
Which means, amongst other things, that Blackburn are the only undefeated team now in the second division. They drew 1-1 at Portsmouth today. Some other second division news. The normally lethal Mick Quinn couldn't score, even from the penalty spot. His miss looked costly until Mark McGee's 89th minute goal beat Bradford to close the gap on Sheffield United. Romeo Zondervan also missed a penalty on a miserable day for Ipswich, who crashed 3-0 at Swindon. Fraser Digby saved it minutes after Dean Stockwell put past his own keeper from 25 yards. Bobby Davison's 6th goal of the season helped Leeds leapfrog over Sunderland into second place. Chris Fairclough hit the winner hit the second, I beg your pardon, in a 2-0 win at Elland Road. And Willie Falconer was sent off in the 36th minute as Watford fell to a Nicky Bissett goal at Brighton. Barnsley's Steve Cooper lasted just half an hour longer before being dismissed in another long losing cause, Port Vale winning 3-0 at Oakwell. Let's see how those games affect the top and bottom of Division 2. Well, Sheffield United is still there on top, and even though they're unbeaten, Blackburn have dropped down quite a few places because of victories elsewhere. And at the bottom of Division 2, it's still Leicester rooted at the bottom with Hull, Portsmouth, Stoke, Middlesbrough, surprisingly, of all of them really, and Bradford City just above them. Right, what of Scotland? Well, Rangers were 2 off the bottom this morning and 3 points off the top. It's that tight in the Scottish Premier. They won today, 2-1. Here's Jock Brown.
The Scotland World Cup striking partnership of Mo Johnston and Nellie McCoist won the game for Rangers, who produced a superb second-half performance. The first goal was scrambled just over the line in 51 minutes by Johnston, despite hot protests from Dundee United. And then Michael O'Neill equalised from a penalty in 64 minutes. But Rangers' power play in the second half, with substitute Ian McCall playing a key role wide on the right in midfield, paid off when Mark Walters gave Ali McCoist the chance to rifle home the winner in 75 minutes. A deserved victory. The final score, Rangers 2, Dundee United 1.
Thanks, Jock. Let's see what happened to Celtic. Well, we know, but let's just get the details of who scored. Guess who? Jackie Jakanowski failed to score for Poland against England on Wednesday, but he was back on target with his 11th goal of the season as Celtic beat Dundee at Dens Park. Tosh McKinley scored the first of 3 Hearts goals that ended Aberdeen's unbeaten home record, and Ken Osmer hit a second-half hat-trick in 40 minutes as Dunfermline thrashed St Mirren 5-1. Goals highlights in most ITV regions tonight. In some regions it's tomorrow. And at 12:30, the friendly of the century, Italy against Brill. The whole match. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for the local news update, plus some of today's sports headlines north of the border in Scotland today. And that's closely followed by the A-Team at the slightly later than advertised time of 5:20. But now it's time for the national news from ITN.